What's up, guys? Welcome back to Between the Pylons. I'm John Camacho. Thank you so much for watching. And guys, if you are new to the channel, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more draft profile content. Today, we are talking about Jaret Patterson, running back out of Buffalo. And hey, I think this is a guy who was kind of on my radar, but not really on my radar coming into the 2020 season. And then that Kent State game happened, rushed for 400 yards. 8 touchdowns, just blew the competition out of the water. And Jaret Patterson has had an awesome college career. He's put together 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. He's put together 2 consecutive 19 touchdown seasons, which is just ridiculous. And he's a really interesting prospect to talk about. Let's get right into the film portion of the video. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, the film portion is a little bit longer than I normally do for videos like these, but there was a lot to unpack with Jaret Patterson. Obviously had to point out the good, had to talk about some of the things that bothered me as well. Let's get into all of it right now. All right, the first thing we have to talk about when we talk about Jaret Patterson is his home run hitting ability, especially in college here. And we'll see against Bowling Green, good bit of shiftiness here, makes a guy miss in the hole, catches his balance, and then just off to the races for a touchdown. Awesome play. I mean, just you have to get excited about this stuff. That's what he does in college. He has that home run hitting ability. I do think it's fair to point out, though, that this is against talent that's probably never going to touch an NFL field. And I do wonder about his speed. So because of the level of competition that he faced, I am going to be really interested to see what his 40 time ends up being at his pro day. I think his pro day is going to be a really big deal. I think his 40 time is going to be a really big deal. And that's not usually the case for running backs, for me especially, just because for the most part, the play speed is so much more important than the actual speed on field. All right, moving on here. I do want to point out Jaret Patterson is far more of a one-cut downhill runner than he is like elusive, a home run hitting back, and he definitely obviously has that home run hitting ability. But it's kind of interesting that when you watch the film, it's far more of plays like these, right? You see him against Miami, Ohio, just knows the hole, gets multiple yards after contact, which you have to love, churns his legs, and just fights for every single yard. Has a really low center of gravity, has really strong, powerful legs, and just runs through people. Does a really good job of that. You see again against Miami, Ohio, huge hole, has enough time to kind of break down and make a cut past a lineman. This lineman, definitely gets an assist for this play here. Picks up speed really well after the cut. I do think that's really important. So like a lot of times when runners have this like quick jump cut, you'll see a lineman catch them from behind because it takes a significant amount of time to pick speed back up. That's not the case for Jaret Patterson. He picks that speed up very quickly and then just can bulldoze his way for extra yards. That's what I want to see Jaret Patterson do at the next level. That's really what gets me excited about his game and gets me excited about him as a prospect. Again, here you gotta like this play. When he gets some space, he is very dangerous. Again, has great blocking, of course, kind of just has a wall of offensive linemen walling off this defensive line, just creates a bunch of space for him, and he is able to do the most out of it. You gotta love how he finishes this play, puts his shoulder down, gets some extra yards. You gotta love his yards after contact is consistently very good, especially for a guy of his size. I will say on this play especially, I did notice a little bit of stiffness, and I think stiffness in his hips is a common theme throughout his game. That's certainly something to keep an eye on. Like right here, watch how he cuts through this hole and kind of just runs a zigzag. You'll see top prospects do things like this, and it just looks so smooth and effortless. And here you can kind of see, runs through the hole and then change direction right there, and then change direction right there. Just something to keep an eye on. That stiffness in his hips is definitely something I feel like a lot of NFL scouts are going to notice and not like, and it's definitely something that really bothers me as well. Moving on here, this is the play where we're going to talk about one of my biggest issues with his game right here, right? Very interesting play. This play is designed to go to the outside, right? It's a misdirect type of play. They're trying to get the entire defense to go left. That's how the play looks, and then all of a sudden, whoop, we're turning around. The whole goal should be for Jaret Patterson to beat this linebacker, right? Instead, Jaret Patterson cuts right here and essentially runs towards contact, realizes, oh, that's a bad idea, and then is able to bounce off of the contact and get positive yards. So he creates, what, 4 or 5 yards on this play. it could have been a lot more. Yeah, that bothers me a whole lot, and that's probably my biggest issue with Jaret Patterson. And here's the other one, right? The next thing we got to talk about is his ability to decelerate. His acceleration's good. We already talked about that. He picks up speed very, very well. But because he has this shot out of a cannon run style, right? He doesn't have that like one cut change of direction ability. Look how many steps he takes, hidden by the pocket there for a second, finally slows down and is able to change direction. But by then, two guys are able to converge on him and bring him down. I'm going to show a similar situation right here, and I actually think this is a better way of kind of explaining the situation, because look how awesome the offensive line blocked this play. You'll see right here, as he's passing the line of scrimmage, he starts to slow down. Look how many steps he's taking to change direction, right? Again, this it's all kind of coming together with stuff like this. Vision. It takes a hair too long to realize, oh, I need to change direction, or I need to go another direction. Stiffness. Can't really change direction as quickly as I would like to see him be able to. This is a wide open hole. There is no reason that 95, this tackle, should have ever gotten a hand or finger on him. Jaret Patterson slowed down in the hole and gave a defender that really shouldn't have been a part of the play a chance to make a tackle. So yeah, that was definitely bothersome to me. As you know, I went through all that film, you can kind of guess at this point that I'm not quite as high on Jaret Patterson as even I expected to be. You know, coming into the film, not really having watched a whole lot of Buffalo games during the season, I thought it was going to be a lot higher. I thought he was going to be in the conversation for like a day 2 pick, and I really expected to think that. And the more I watched the film, the more I was like, oh, this dude's not a day 2 pick at all. And let's get to the skill chart here so we can kind of break the player down in a little different way, and then I'll get into where I think he'll go in the draft and things like that. All right, so when we look at the skill chart, it's a really interesting skill chart, because as negative I was about certain aspects of his game, there's also other parts of his game that I really, really like. Listen, vision, not super special to me at all, and I think that's something that will have to be worked on. I think he played behind a really good offensive line, especially by max standards. I mean, that offensive line was beating a lot of people, and I'm kind of curious to go back and see how many NFL players were on that offensive line. I don't know. All I know is that the offensive line was consistently moving back the defensive line multiple yards off the line of scrimmage, which they're doing their job. That's great, but the vision for Jaret Patterson is definitely something that bothers me a whole lot. Agility at a 4.7. I expected this to be higher, but this kind of goes into those stiff hips that I talked about. It goes into, you know, he's not smooth in as far as lateral quickness goes. He has moments. He really does. He has moments. That's why it is a positive grade. 4.7 doesn't sound awesome, but it's a positive grade overall, because I did see the jump cut. I did see moments and I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. He checks certain aspects of the box, but there was also the stiffness and things that knocked him down. Short area quickness at a 5, again, a positive grade. Deceleration, which is something I talked about a lot in the video, that does go into short area quickness for me, but the acceleration, his 0 to 60 was really, really good. That's why, as you see, 6.4, that's a really positive grade. That gets into that really good to almost elite. For me, like 7 and above is like elite range for me. So we get into that aspect. Pass protection is not his game at all. It was not good. It was not pretty. I considered putting it into the film, but it was already long enough. Figured I could just talk about it here. Long story short, needs work. Let's move on. He runs with really good power. With his size, to put his power at a 6.3, he was running over people in college. And I know, look, he probably won't be doing that in the NFL, but it reminded me of a lot of like smaller, low center of gravity guys that are able to just like run through people. And that's the aspect of his game that is really, really exciting to me. Like, that's the aspect where I'm like I see certain plays and I see certain moments, like the clip where I mentioned his stiffness and the zigzag route, but he also ran over the dude to finish off the play. Those are the moments where it's like, it happened consistently on film. It happened a lot. And those moments were like, man, am I just overthinking certain aspects of his game? Is this a dude and I'm just overthinking it? I don't think I am, but it certainly crossed my mind that I might be. Pass catching, he had 0 receptions for 0 yards in 2020 in the pass catching department. Put it at a 4. That's kind of my standard for, I didn't see it. I'm not exactly sure. Let's move on. Hopefully it's good. I'm not going to kill him for something I just didn't see a whole lot of. His patience, runs with really good patience, and he should. He was very good at letting holes develop and things like that, because as I said, he ran behind a really good offensive line. considering max standards. I'm not saying this is Alabama offensive line, but for the competition they were facing, the offensive line was winning a whole lot. So patience was very good. Breaking tackles, consistently was able to break a tackle. So at 6.5, that's also a really good grade. Ability in the open field, 3.6. was not good. Kind of gets into the whole last couple clips that I showed of the film portion of the video. That's kind of why that is as low as it is at a 3.6. I think it can get better with coaching and with a little bit more, hey, you are a one-cut runner, just be that. Find the hole, explode through the hole. That's the end of the story. I would like to see him do that. And then pad level of balance, again, another really good grade. Listen, there's a lot to like about Jaret Patterson, and there's a lot that I really do like about Jaret Patterson. And I just can't decide what he's going to be in the NFL. He's a tough evaluation for me. I'm not exactly sure. Could he go in the 4th round, 5th round? I don't think he goes in the first 2. I'd be very surprised if a team looks at his measurables, looks at some of the negatives that I saw in film that I would have to imagine the NFL teams are going to see as well, and think, yeah, we got to take them with the day 2 pick. I just don't think that's going to happen. I do think he's going to fall into that 4th, 5th round kind of range, and it's just going to be very dependent on the situation he ends up in. I think it's kind of a lottery pick as to where he goes and how successful he can be. I don't know. I really don't. He could go to the 49ers and I would love him there. He'd be a great 49er. He'd be a great Ram. He'd be great at that outside zone run scheme. I mean, he's built for that. He's built for that one cut outside run zone and just explode through the hole. He knows where he's going. The scheme is so good, and he puts him in a perfect situation. That's what he would be really good at. But he could also end up in a situation like a Devin Singletary, who I did have a really good grade on, and who is the comp to Jaret Patterson for me. I do think he reminds me of Devin Singletary in a lot of ways. Not exactly, but in a lot of ways, and I'll get to that in a second. But Devin Singletary goes to a Buffalo team that has a very simple run scheme, not super expansive, not just the run game is not really what they're worried about. They want to throw the ball, and that's okay. I'm not saying anything negative about the Buffalo Bills, but the run game does leave something to be desired. Part of that's the offensive line. Part of that is the scheme itself, and I do think it puts the running backs in a bad position, and now Devin Singletary is looked at as a bust. He kind of is, but I don't know if it's all his fault. That could also be Jaret Patterson's fate. I just don't know what's going to happen from that respect. And I talked about the comparison to a Devin Singletary. The reason for that is obviously the size is a big thing. They're both, I feel like, similar body type. Jaret Patterson's a little bit more rocked up. I mean, he's a ball of muscle, and I do think he has a little bit more explosiveness than Devin Singletary had. I think Devin Singletary overall was maybe the more polished and better running back as to some of the other aspects of his game. But I digress. That's just a rough comp, and that's kind of where I would comp him overall. But all right, guys, that is all I have for Jaret Patterson today. Let me know what you thought in the comments on this video. Let me know what you think of Jaret Patterson as a runner. Let me know where you think he should go in the draft. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Love to hear what you thought of this video, who you would like me to do another draft profile on. And guys, again, if you enjoy this type of content, if you're into the NFL draft, if you're into NFL content in general, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Peace out.